Two friends meet up to drink some beers and talk about past times. Not yesterday, but long ago, it's scandals, wars and crimes. From Stalin's reign to prohibition, Tudors, Pompey, Bush and NASA's mission, Edison's spoke, Genghis Khan's rise to victory. Forget your old teacher, it's time for Pint-Sized History.
Hello there, and welcome to the Pint-Sized History podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Joe.
And this is the podcast where we talk about all the landmark events in history that have shaped the world we live in today. And we do so over a refreshing alcoholic beverage.
Crate beverages. That's right. We're sponsored by Crate. Woo woo woo.
We are again sponsored by Crate Brewery, which is a lovely brewery in Hackney. They've got a great pub. Go check it out. They do delicious beers. I'm currently drinking the IPA.
Me
which
too.
is a 6%, and it's really
6%?
Nice. Yeah.
Wait, you're joking.
No, it is.
Oh my god.
Also sustainably produced.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
That's 3.4%.
Oh, you got the session IPA.
Oh, right. They're different.
Yeah. They have a delightful variation and range of
6%?
beers there. It's good, isn't
Oh,
it?
bloody hell. You're going to be
steaming off this
on
one.
the floor.
And you might already know that we have a discount code with Crate Brewery. Thanks for the lovely people over there for supplying us with that. But if you go onto the website and type in Pint-Sized 15 on any order, that's Pint-Sized 15, not 50, 15, you can buy any of their delicious products at a discount price of 15%, I believe. 15 would make sense.
You'd hope so. If it was pint-sized 15, that it would be 15%. Yeah, absolutely.
But we're here anyway for another episode of the podcast, and Joe is going to take us through something today. And let me tell you straight off the bat, I am so excited for this one. I think this is like top 3 history.
Top 3
history. I think.
What's first and second then?
Well, I mean, like, the first in history for me is the Second World War.
Right.
That's probably the most interesting thing in the Second World War. Mm-hmm. And I think the second thing would probably be, you know what, it's probably this topic today. So why don't you walk us through what it is?
Yeah, I got to admit, I agree that it is a pretty fascinating subject. And I will preface this by saying the idea and the concept of Nazism and all the bad things that is associated with Nazism is... You know, it can be a touchy subject for certain people, and understandandly so. You know, it's,
for who, Joe? Who are you hinting that it might be a touchy subject for?
Certain people's the wrong way to describe it. I don't mean for demographics.
Are you referring to the Jews? The Juden.
I'm just mean in general. Some people find that it's something that you can laugh about, and some people obviously can't because it's such a horrible piece of history. It is fascinating, and from our perspective, over the years of joking about history, we love to make fun of the Nazis. It's a fun subject.
They're
to take
hilarious.
They are hilarious. Sometimes they're idiots. Sometimes they're silly. Sometimes
evil.
they're stupid. And it's fun to make humour of evil and the concept of evil.
I mean, how else do like humans tend to deal with like really difficult things, and like people laugh through grief, and like you joke through stress, and it's like like Schadenfreude. Going back to the fact that Joe hasn't said, but we're talking about the rise of the Nazis this episode.
Yeah, we're talking about Nazism, if you hadn't realised.
And Schadenfreude is a German word, so even more well placed for us to be joking about Nazism today.
Yeah, the point I'm making is purely that if you feel like listening to this that we're making light of this subject matter, then make no mistake, we understand the consequences and the grimness and the totalitarianism of it. It's just that, from our perspective, this is how we like to talk about this stuff, because at the end of the day, I don't want to make these people seem like heroes. I want to make them seem like the mugs that they are, and if we can have a joke and a laugh about them, then that's going to be part. So I'm just warning you guys, if we seem like we're trivializing certain matters, that might be the reason. But yes, essentially, we are going to be doing the rise of Nazism, the rise of the Nazis. It's actually a huge subject, and when I finished researching this, I kind of felt like, I'm kind of upset that we're not doing this as a 3-parter rather than the 2-parter, because you could really do it as 3.
Yeah, you could do it as a 5-parter.
Yes, of course. And many subjects you could. I was able to get to pretty much them in power, and I thought, you know what, we don't have the time
really
in a 2-parter to be able to talk about the stuff that goes on. You know, they're how they make Germany into the state it is, and how World War II begins. I've not got any of that, basically.
Fair enough.
Instead, we're going to be talking about how Nazism and fascism in Germany began, essentially, and the conditions that got it there.
It's also a good time to reflect on the rise of fascism in Germany, because right now the world is undergoing that exact thing right now.
Yeah, especially in Europe and in lots of Western cultures, including America, of course, as well. There is a clear rise in right-wing fascism that is quite scary. And I think it's really noteworthy how many times, and even in this story that we're talking about, you can correlate it. You can be like, oh man, that is actually so similar to things that we see in present day all the time at the moment. So that's another really good reason to talk about a subject like this.
I don't think what countries are going through rise of fascism. You got France
here. I mean, Brexit was nationalist, and
I would say reform
right on the cusp of Labour right now. So
the ADF rising up in Germany
with Elon Musk's help.
You've got like Orban in Hungary getting increasingly more right wing. Meloni in Italy.
Yeah, Meloni is a really interesting one because she really takes a lot of the fascist tropes that Mussolini invented and then became so unpopular in Italy after Mussolini got out of power because everyone was like, damn, that sucked. That was really shit. And she, with her political party, the Fratelli d'Italia, which is just
Brotherhood of Italy,
exactly, have really shoehorned a bunch of those same tropes in, and it's it's sad to see.
C.
Which doesn't have that.
For those of you who don't know that reference, if you type in to Google Mussolini, it's like the Mussolini's party's HQ in Rome, and there is a building with Mussolini's face on it with CCCC, yes, plastered all over it.
It seems like something from a TV show or something completely ridiculous, and like you would never actually expect that's reality. But literally, go on Google, search up the photo of the Mussolini headquarters, and you'll just see this like bizarre image, and that was actually what it was like. So yeah, not that far with Meloni just yet, but there are certain troubling signs. So the Nazis are probably the most famous political party ever. I'm not sure if you can name one that's more famous.
Labour.
Okay.
The Republicans. No, you're right.
They are the most famous. So I don't feel like I particularly need to explain what it is for anyone that's tuning into this for the first time. You probably know what the Nazis are. So I'm not going to get too deep into it. We are going to talk about how they came to be and how it happened, because it's kind of fucking bizarre.
Yeah.
You can't describe the Nazis without first explaining the political climate after World War One.
Yeah.
So you have World War One. And it is this pure stalemate for years on the Western Front. And then all of a sudden, and I'm talking about this from a German perspective, all of a sudden, it all just collapses. You are literally in this, literal stalemate, but, trenches against each other that just won't move. And it just gets the impression that, it's going to be like this for quite a while. And then all of a sudden, it all just goes. And
the war ends.
Yes, and what's even more alarming about it from a German perspective is that they would have heard the news about what's happened in Russia, which the Russian Revolution also happened during World War One. And if you're not aware, during World War One, Germany is fighting two fronts: the Western Front against France and England, and the Eastern Front against the Russians. The Russians capitulate because they're having their own crazy revolution.
October Revolution.
With Lenin and Marxism and all that fucking jazz. So, all of a sudden, the Germans don't need to fight on one side. Great. So you'd assume, if you were German, from that perspective, that actually we're doing quite well. And, oh no, the Americans have got involved. Whatever. We can deal with England and France. At the very worst, it will be a stalemate. And then, all of a sudden, it all collapses and Germany loses the war incredibly quickly.
I think it's important to preface that, in actuality, Germany was losing the war badly. It was a stalemate because it's trench warfare, so it's hard to take positions. But the German people were being blockaded by the English. German national morale was incredibly low. The casualties, they had 7 million casualties on the Western in total during the First World War, which is an insane amount of casualties. It's not sustainable, and they've just launched a horrible offensive in 1918, which has completely failed.
Yeah, so all of that is true. What I'm more saying is that from a German soldier or just civilian's point of view, not all of that is going to be either common knowledge or talked about, because in propaganda you don't want your side to lose morale.
Yeah.
So from their perspective,
we're losing. Come join.
Exactly. That perspective is not what the average German has. And the point that the reason I'm talking from their perspective is that when this big capitulation happens, there is a small but growing sentiment that the Germans maybe not necessarily have lost the war naturally, but rather have been stabbed in the back. And this could be from many different sources, right? This could be from the left-wing, weak politicians that are currently in control of the government that are not doing well enough in this war effort. This could be from the communist disruptors that are starting to invade the society at a base level in the streets and whatever. And it could also be the corrupt Jewish bankers that are, in control of the money, in control of the finance, and they're worried that they are the ones that are actually ruining this for the, hard-working German people. this mentality, like I say, is small, but it is there, and in this kind of confusion and weirdness, and a bit frustrated with how this has all happened out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And that mentality is shared by a certain 29-year-old Austrian called Adolf Hitler.
A certain Austrian painter.
Painter. Well, they always say an Austrian painter. Yeah.
Just to quickly jump in there, it's also frightening how the same, like, I don't know how widespread anti-Semitism is at this point in 1920s, early 1920s Germany, but like that rhetoric is still shared to this day constantly.
Yeah.
If you go on social media, Instagram and TikTok, which are absolute fucking cesspits for this shit, just like there is constantly like the Jews own the media. They're the Zionists.
And it's getting worse as well. But you say that as if this is a thing that, has been happening for 100 years. This has been happening for
thousands of years, my guy.
Yeah, thousands.
We've been running all over the place, us Jews.
Yeah, the Jews have been under the
cosh the entire time.
So Adolf Hitler shares this view, and he has been fighting in the First World War this entire time as well. Apparently, when he hears, because he's in a hospital at this point, and apparently when he hears, because he's injured, that the war has ended and that we've lost, he is distraught. He cannot believe it.
I imagine Hitler liked the war quite a bit.
Well, I don't think he liked the war, but I think he liked winning, and I think he liked the possibility of an imperial, strong Germany.
The Brotherhood too.
Yeah,
probably like the camaraderie.
Well, apparently he was a bit of an odd guy. Apparently,
really?
Yeah,
God,
surprisingly
I never thought that'd be the case.
Yeah. I mean, they liked him. They did like him in his platoon, but apparently he was a bit of a kind of solitary,
really
quiet
stranger.
Yeah, and Austrian as well. Remember, he'd moved to Munich. And then signed up for. He was loved Germany, like had a passion for Germany, despite the fact he's Austrian. And when the war broke out, he got hyped. He signed up immediately in Munich, and there was apparently an error, which meant that he got signed up to the German army rather than being sent back to the Austro-Hungarian army, which is the normal way that it should have gone when he signed up. So he had been fighting in the German army alongside Germans, and he was absolutely pissed off. He has this immense love for Germany. And he blamed it primarily on one thing, which is
the Jews.
Yeah, it is the Jews. I kind of mean like one event happens that he's really upset about, and that is
the Treaty of Versailles.
Yeah, that thing. He's pissed off.
Yeah, natürlich.
He's pissed off about the good old Treaty of Versailles, which maybe you might have heard of, and if you haven't, then let me tell you, that
greatest
is
treaty
easily
of all time.
On Watch Mojo's top 10 shittest treaties ever. That's got to be number one, man. And I'm going to try to explain to you just why it was total garbage and just such a useless thing to do. And not useless, but actually like way worse.
Damaging.
It screwed everything up for the future. And what I find frustrating is that like it's not a treaty where like all of them thought this is a good idea. There was like, some people going, should we be beating Germany up this bad with this treaty? And there were voices of it, but the ones that got the loudest was the ones that said, no, let's fuck them up.
Let me guess. It was the French who said, let's do this.
The French were the biggest, like, Germany deserves nothing. They should be absolutely...
The French have suffered more than the English in the First World War, to be fair. They are like the leader of the alliance as well. So I guess like what they say sort of goes. And they have a reason as well, because they want to like brutally pound Germany so they never invade them again, and considering they border them, that's like their main concern, isn't it? I guess.
It kind of has sense for the French to feel so passionately about let's make this awful for Germany, because France, have had to deal with it the most. It's on their land. There was extreme bad fighting, and France and Germany are often at odds, and I think they felt a severe sense of like, well, look, you started this war and you've killed French blood in the process, so we hate you and we want you to suffer for it. In a way, it's hard to be like, oh, well, what idiots you are, because that's human emotion. If you feel angry, you want to be able to display it in some way, but the lack of critical thinking in that moment is really disappointing, because let's get started, because I haven't actually explained what happens in the Treaty of Versailles. But basically all these people turn up to this palace called Versailles in France, and
lovely
all the big
place.
Hitters are there. We've got some Italians, we've got some Japanese, we've got some Brits.
Are they big hitters, really?
I'm just saying the world is there. We got some Woodrow Wilson with the Americans, and he's easily one of the biggest dicks of a president in American history. And then, of course, the French.
Is that a
and
common
English.
viewpoint? I don't know much about Woodrow Wilson.
He's probably one of the least popular.
Why? Any just like short?
He was a
reasons
big
to why?
racist.
Oh,
He had
really?
some. He was a bit
Very un-American,
He felt
that.
very he had a bit of a messiah complex. He had this idea that by creating the League of Nations, it would make him like the greatest leader in the history
really?
of men. Of course, the League of Nations ended up being a complete catastrophe. He did fuck all. So he did none of that. There's loads of stuff, but I don't have it all to me at hand. But yeah, he's a dick.
Cool. Woodrow Wilson.
Wilson,
check.
dick. Let's sign that one off. So, yeah, let me explain to you what actually occurred. So Germany have to basically accept full blame for the war, and like the moral blame of it for starting it. Which again, yes, they did start it, but if they hadn't, it was quite clear that the winds of war were happening. Like everyone was rearming, everyone was in a mood to fight. It was like. If the Germans had for a second gone, hey, maybe we should calm down, there's no guarantee that the Russians or the French or anything wouldn't have just escalated it back up again. So it's a bit unfair to just say, oh, Germany, it's your fault. All of it's your fault. It's not, the war started because Hungary and Serbia started having a little spat. It's not like Germany wasn't even there at the very beginning. It's like the bully next to you gets told off, and then you, just by standing next to him, gets told off the most. Like, well, what did I do? I didn't even start it. It's like, so
Why are you so fucking me for?
yeah. So for starting the war, Germany have to pay the equivalent, and I did this in modern British pounds. They have to pay the equivalent of £657 billion.
Whoa.
After a world war, where your economy is already crippled, would completely bankrupt you. Alongside that, the country loses territory. 13% of European German territory goes to its neighbours, and they lose 1/10 of their entire population.
Ooh.
Would you like to have a guess at which European countries take back land from Germany, or just take it for the first time from Germany, through the Treaty of Versailles?
Sure. And I reckon I will get all of these countries right.
There are 6 European countries that gain land.
I'm going to absolutely smash this one. Okay. Czechoslovakia.
Czechoslovakia, yep.
Poland.
Yep.
France.
Yep.
Belgium.
Yes.
Holland.
No.
Okay. Lithuania.
Nice, yep. Lithuania, that was the one I wasn't sure if you were going to get.
And Austria.
Not Austria. Austria were none of the Axis.
One more. Luxembourg.
Not Luxembourg. Luxembourg is an interesting one because apparently it was controlled by Germany, but it ended up being like this weird place that was under the order of the League of Nations. I don't really understand it.
Switzerland then?
Not Switzerland.
Denmark. Alright, cool.
You did well. I'd say you got 5 there. Denmark took you too long, considering,
I should have gone for the bordered countries
Yeah, the
first.
borders. Okay, so apart from the European stuff, they lost virtually all of their overseas empire. So, all that, mainly stuff in Asia, like colonies in Asia, that's all gone. So Germany ain't got basically anything else. As well as that, so all the money, all the land, all the population they've lost, they are also told to reduce their army. So they are allowed no tanks, no air force, a few ships for a navy, but that's it, and 100,000 men. That's it.
Not particularly big army.
No, but just, to wage any war, you need equipment. You need planes, you need tanks, you need navy. So to have a small army and nothing else to defend it with, you're just going to get barrel rolled by anyone. That's that's not ideal. Anschluss, which is the union between Austria and Germany, that is forbidden. No more of that.
Really?
Yep, not allowed.
I didn't know that was part of the Treaty of Versailles.
Get rid of that. You're not allowed to be together. When you two are together, bad things happen.
True.
Hitler's like, come on.
Yeah, you have to keep the only two official countries that speak German apart. I mean, you got like Switzerland who speak German, and Belgium
I know
too.
what you mean.
But the two majority German-speaking countries.
Yeah,
keep them away from each other.
Yeah.
One on one side of the classroom, the other the naughty boys in the corners. That's where we'll put them.
Yeah, it's essentially that. It's like you two can't play together. When you play together, bad shit happens. And so
you beat up little France.
You can see, but we're kind of making a joke of it. But you literally just from that, you can kind of get this idea that Germany are being treated like children. in a way.
Yeah.
They're basically saying, no, you're not allowed to do that anymore, because if you do that, that just means bad things. And I'm just saying, from a German person's point of view, you see all these things, and just on a moral, they are a very proud people, the Germans, especially during this time period, very, very patriotic. And for them
Friendly
to see
too.
this, they feel like not only is the world caving in around them, but everyone's laughing at them. It's like, you know, you're not allowed to be friends with that other kid, because if you do it, then you're going to be bad and you're going to do bad. It's like, do you know what I mean? Like, you can see that it feels a little bit demeaning.
Yeah, you know what the problem is? The people laughing at them are French. So it's gonna be
That laugh. That laugh.
that's gonna. I will, come here, Hitler.
Excuse me.
Come here, Hitler.
Come here, Hitler.
Come here. I'll vote for you to get that French guy over there to stop going.
Yeah, that's true. French Hitler in charge.
And
Yeah.
then you get the British like ha 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 ha.
Oh my god.
You got a cacophony of laughs at you in horrible accents. You're going to be damn enraged.
The final thing about this treaty, the big thing that Germany has to deal with, is that the Rhineland, which is basically the big piece of land that's connecting France and Germany, or the main piece of land connecting France and Germany,
Lovely
is demilitarized. So Germans aren't allowed to put any troops in that land. Which, again, it's the kind of thing where it's like, well, in theory, the war's over, so why would you need troops there? But it also just kind of, it's like France are like, let's get them to have no defenses, so that if we want, we can just go in, and like they can't do shit. It's like, let's just do that for shits and giggles.
And that is also, I think, like I think the Rhineland for Germany has always been like its industrial heartland.
Oh, don't worry, we're going to get to that later on.
That's how exciting is
the
this?
The Rhineland features later on in the pod. So
This is top 2 history.
Top 2 history.
Easy.
Top 2 history ever.
Look at me getting all autistically interested in where the industrial heartlands are in the country.
That is all of the main points of the Treaty of Versailles put together in one big bundle. And when you listen to it all in one go, you kind of go, well, how the hell was Germany supposed to get out of that? Like, how are they ever supposed to recover without just being swallowed up by another nation that takes them for easy pickings? I mean, that is like, you as a nation, you are not only stripped to nothing, but you are stripped to nothing with everyone else blaming you morally. Imagine you're a German that somehow has the wealth to go travel to another country. Everyone's laughing at you. Everyone's treating you like, that French laugh. They're going like, man, they really fucked you, huh? You got nothing now, huh? Like, what's the price of bread? It's like, this is the...
I laugh. That was grating.
Exactly, and so you can imagine why immediately there must be resentment. Just a little, maybe just a little, but it's there.
Yeah. Do you reckon there's any guilt at all, or like just pure resentment?
That's a good question. Yes, of course there's going to be guilt, but there's going to be guilt on every side. And I think that from World War One is not like World War Two, where it's quite easy to be able to tell who are the goodies and the baddies. World War One is way more muddled and way more, it was just a sign of the times and these militaries getting ready to fight, and a really, really sad loss of life. But in reality, the Germans were no different from the Brits or the French. And when we had our Christmas truce where we went out on no man's land and played footy with them,
they definitely beat us too.
We don't. They probably did. We don't look back at that and go, God, those Nazi scum. Of course not, because this is a different Germany. Yeah. This is a Germany that was just another army fighting a war that shouldn't have happened in the first place, and they were just young men that were fighting for their country, similar to the Brits and similar to the French.
It's why All Quiet on the Western Front has very quickly become my favourite film of all time now. It used to be.
How many times have you seen it? It only came out like
3
times.
Maybe
3 times.
It used to be Birdman, which is a film.
So similar.
Such
similar movies.
Have you seen Birdman?
Yeah.
It's a great film.
Michael Keaton.
Yeah, and Edward Norton, who's maybe my favourite actor.
Yeah, he's
back to All Quiet on the Western Front. It just really makes it clear that there were no winners, there were no goodies, no baddies in World War One, and that
war's hell.
The real problem is war.
Yeah. Back to Hitler, who has heard and seen this treaty, and he's come back to Germany, and he just feels like he's got no place in society. Essentially, he's not an educated man. His painting sucks. He's got no job anywhere, so he struggles to find anything to do.
Is his painting good?
Alfie, get a photo out quick. Alfie,
get in it.
Let's get a photo of his paintings. I'm joking, don't worry. Alfie's
I can hear him laughing.
Alfie, I can hear him laughing. Alfie's our producer on the other side, and we're like telling him, like, come on, let's find some of Hitler's paintings. Let's rate him out of 10.
Through the soundproofing, we hear him giggling away.
He's just giggling away. So you can tell that it's basically like he is like a lot of Germans, especially young Germans, remember he's around our age. You know, he's come back from the war. He's 29. He's turning 30, and he doesn't feel he has a place. And he's very frustrated with how society is. He gets a job in the German army, essentially as a spy, not like a cool spy, but just someone that goes and
Not like
listens.
007.
Not like that at all.
Hitler.
But more
Adolf Hitler. License to exterminate.
Genocide, to purge. So no, it's not a cool job like that. It's literally just he goes to these places and listens to because when the Weimar Republic is the new political party of Germany after World War One. It's set up as this democratic party to deal with all the issues that Germany has.
Well, it's not a party,
and
it's
not
a
party,
system of
it's
government,
a system.
right?
Yeah, and it's struggling. And in the process, a lot of the Nazis aren't the only ones. There's a lot of fringe political parties, some extremists, some moderate, that are all coming in to try and get their moment. Try to seize power for themselves. And Hitler, his job is all of a sudden is to spy. And by spy, literally just go to where they're talking and just take down notes silently and come back to the army, to this guy and show what they're talking about. So for Hitler, he goes to these town halls, essentially beer halls are fascinating places in Munich and Bavaria.
Yeah, I've been to some.
I'm
Bavaria.
jealous. Well, I'd love
been to
to.
some in Austria.
I'd love to go to some of these southern German beer halls. They seem such like camaraderie places where everyone's like having a laugh and having these big steins. And apparently they were where political discussion would happen in Germany.
Too right, like the pub.
Yeah, well, yeah, they are essentially the pubs of Germany. And so what would happen is all these fringe political parties would go in there and literally, even if they're just a group of like 3-4 people, they would just sit and talk about the current political state of the country, and it's over a few refreshing brewskis. So who are we to judge them? You know what I mean?
It literally was the earliest iterations of the Pint-Sized
Pint-Sized
history
history,
podcast.
yeah. Maybe we were German
Pint-Sized
in
politics, though.
We were German in a past life. So
yeah, certainly.
So Hitler would go to these beer halls, and he'd order a beer at the bar, and then he'd sit down with his thing, and he'd listen. One evening in September 1919, Hitler attends a tiny group meeting in a Munich beer hall to take notes once again, as he's been doing. This group are called the German Workers' Party. He loves it. He joins in. They are taken aback by how passionate and invested this man is in their anti-Semitic, anti-communist cause. They're like, who's this guy? He's got like a notepad and he's got beer.
Oh, he's writing.
I thought
he can write.
he can write. That's great.
as one step ahead of us.
So that evening, they invite him to join the group. He is given the job of Chief of Propaganda.
Ooh.
Soon enough, Hitler has created a manifesto, renamed the party, and given it a striking new emblem. The National Socialist German Workers' Party.
Oh, it rolls off the tip of the tongue.
It really does.
What a lovely name.
And NSGWP is not a particularly interesting name. So what they do is...
I thought it was NSDAP.
Yeah, German Deutsch.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right though. And obviously, you're right. It doesn't sound that great. So in reality, all they do is they shorten National and Socialist. So Nazi. So Nazi. The Nazi Party. Within 2 years, Hitler is the new leader of the party, and he's finding himself quite natural at these beer hall speeches. He's loud.
Is he drinking?
Well, you imagine so. I don't think he was necessarily a huge drinker, but he was. Yeah, he was definitely drinking.
Do you think he'd be good fun over a pint, Hitler?
That is not a question I'm answering, man.
Do you think if you sat down and had a pint, you think like, oh, it's the crazy guy from the pub?
Goering, I do, yeah.
Goering be a fucking laugh.
Goering
oh my
seems
God,
like
he'd be such a good time.
Yeah, Goering, for all his faults, he did seem quite like hilarious.
All these people will have tremendous faults. But like, let's look past that and think about the
How funny
sheer banter that you can have with Goering.
Goering, I think so, but the rest of them, no. I don't think they're particularly interesting. I
Goering
remember during the war, he was quite a quiet, weird, strange individual. I don't think he's necessarily... I think he'd just be quite passionate and quite driven, and you'd be like, wow, this guy really cares about this stuff. But I don't think you'd be able to have banter with Hitler in the same way that you could have banter with some, Farage. Sorry, Nigel.
You think you could have banter with Farage?
Yeah. More so than Hitler. I think Farage has got more banter in the
Breaking
tank
news.
than...
Pint-Sized history. Think they can have banter at the pub with Farage.
Backs Nige. So, yeah, Hitler's finding himself quite natural at all these speeches. He is loud, he's quiet, he's expressive, and he's persuasive. He's also learning a key part of populism, which is give the listeners what they want to hear. If they're hopeful, inspire them. If they're sad, show them who's to blame for their sadness. And if they're angry, then give them a vessel for that anger. He's learning very quickly the power of being able to orate at a really driven level, if you're able to say things and truly mean them with conviction, you can convince people very, very easily as long as your speech is good. And Hitler, these are the earliest indications that Hitler realizing he is actually quite, because he's a very quiet guy. Up to this point, it seems like Hitler is a bit of a recluse, and all of a sudden he's screaming in these big halls, and everyone's listening to him, going, "Oh, damn, that's it.
He's got a lot to say, doesn't he?
He does." So in 1922, Hitler meets Hermann Goering, who is a war hero and a flamboyant pilot. In fact, funnily enough, he is the last commander of the famous Flying Circus Squadron. Do you know who the Flying Circus were?
I presume it's not a flying circus.
No, it's a fighter squadron.
Fighter pilots in the First World War.
It's the legendary Red Baron. He's probably one of the most famous fighter plane aces in the world ever. Was the captain of that squadron before he was shot down. And at the end of World War One, Goering was the last captain of that. So he is, a fairly big man in the Air Force.
Household name, maybe.
Not a house. I don't think he's a household name.
Like aces back then would have been household names?
The Red Baron was, but I don't think Goering would have been. So, like Hitler, Goering had really struggled to find his place in Germany after the war had ended. He was a right-winger, and he was dismayed at how far the country had fallen in his eyes. He struggled to find jobs. Apparently, he worked as a stunt pilot, like performing aerobatics, for entertainment. And, suddenly he's in a Munich beer hall. He hears Hitler. He happens upon a Hitler speech, and he sees himself an opportunity. He might not necessarily agree with all of Hitler's ideas. For a lot of them are quite extreme, even for this period. But he more sees it as an opportunity for him to gain his status back. It's like he was this big shot in the Air Force, and now that the war's ended, he's nothing, or he feels he's nothing. And this is a chance for him to gain that reputation back, I guess. So that was the thing for Goering. It was an opportunity. Around this time, Hitler creates the SA. Now, the SA are basically the precursor to the SS, which are the very famous, awful divisions, paramilitary group, basically, that Hitler commanded. The SA, they were a paramilitary group purely for the Nazis, ready to defend their political leaders, disrupt rival parties, and genuinely just cause chaos in general. Like, just be a nuisance. They were, honestly, just thugs.
Yeah.
That's kind of how they worked, how they were managed, how they dealt with things.
Millwall,
sure. They were nicknamed the Brown Shirts. Because they were inspired by Mussolini, who at this time was a few years ahead in the making of fascism in Italy compared to Nazi Germany. And he had the famous black shirts, which were, essentially the exact same thing. His paramilitary group that would beat up people, beat up his rivals, protect Mussolini himself, and just let this chaos reign that Mussolini could climb while they were doing it. The brown shirts were Hitler's version, and they were not particularly, they were an ill-disciplined mob, essentially. And this is interesting because you could so see this type of thing happening today. A lot of them, or the majority of them, were disadvantaged, unemployed young men who had grown so despondent with the state of the country. They were basically given an excuse to drink beer and go beat people up that they didn't like, and they were getting paid for it.
Really?
Yeah, well, this is
who
this
was
is their job.
This?
Well, the Nazis. They get donations. I'm sure they don't get paid much for it. But the point being, the number one best thing about being able to drink and beat people up is that there's a cause to it. It's not like they'd been told you're thugs, you're idiots. Hitler describes them as this perfect thing that is able to help this true Nazi cause getting to where it should be, which is the very top. And it's so, if you're a disadvantaged young man that feel like you have no place in the world, and suddenly you're being told, oh, well, look, you can go fuck some people up, and not only will we give you beer and you can drink it and have fun, but you will be doing it for the right reasons. It's like, well, that gives you a purpose, even if
I'm
that
really
purpose
going to beat them up now.
Yeah, I was just going to slap
them a little bit.
Yeah, but now it's like,
I'm going to beat the shit out of them.
I'm going to kick him.
Yeah.
Boot him. Goering is made the commander of the brown shirts at one point, and he quickly whips them into shape, as what Hitler said. So Goering already proving his worth in this very early days Nazi party, which is also growing very quickly now. Only a few thousand members when Hitler joined in 1919. Now there's tens of thousands, and they have offices not just in Munich, but in many cities around Germany. At this point, a Munich university student studying agriculture joins the Nazi party in 1923.
Heinrich Himmler.
He's an avid stamp collector.
Of course he fucking is. Have you seen the state of him? Look at his face. He looks like Google Heinrich Himmler. He looks exactly like someone who would be a massive stamp collector. And I don't know if there are any stamp collectors watching this.
That's so rude.
I don't want to insult you.
Have you just compared stamp collectors
as Heinrich Himmler?
To Heinrich Himmler, one of the worst Nazis.
That's exactly what I've done, and I don't take it back.
Oh my god.
He is probably the most evil of all the Nazis.
He's out there.
Yeah.
Top 3 worst Nazis. He's there.
Top 2 histories, top 3 most evil.
Top 3 most evil Nazis. Heinrich is right up there, along with Adolf, and then you could probably throw in a Goebbels or who was the architect?
Eichmann.
Eichmann, thank you.
Yes.
Eichmann, who basically orchestrated
and Hess as well.
Yeah, orchestrated the Holocaust.
Yeah.
By this point in Germany, the Treaty of Versailles' idiotic conditions are really starting to take shape. There is a severe amount of debt, and honestly, the poor policy decisions that the new Weimar Republic are making are not helping. Hyperinflation has arrived in Germany. Apparently, in 1 year, the price of bread has increased from 160 marks to 200 billion marks.
Oh.
So if you're finding that difficult to comprehend, because you should, because how do you comprehend that number?
It's like a Freddo being like $2,000.
So more. It's 160 marks. 200 billion marks is 2 with 11 zeros after it. So, doing some very extremely quick maths, if a Freddo is like 30p or whatever, that's kind of like, I don't know, 30 million pounds for a Freddo or some shit. It's like, it's like, or like 3 million. It's like
inflation's so baffling.
Yeah, it's like, it's so ridiculous that like, you can't really comprehend. And Germans couldn't, because, you would literally take a wheelbarrow full of cash and it still wouldn't be enough to buy a newspaper. That's how bad it was. Literally, you think of how big a wheelbarrow is, shove it full of cash, still can't buy a wheelbarrow.
But you got the wheelbarrow. It's by the wheelbarrow. I don't need 2 wheelbarrows.
On top of this, France and Belgium are frustrated because Germany's not paying off their huge debt because they're completely bankrupt. So what do? They occupy the Ruhr. This Rhineland area, which is the industrial heartland.
Sorry, you said the
Ruhr.
The Ruhr. Yeah, the Ruhr.
The Ruhr.
I think the way you said it was
The Ruhr. Yeah, this is proper industrial heartland. This is like, one of the only things Germany has left. It's lost 1/10 of its population already, and this is the area where they get most things made, and most, exports are done through this. This is a huge part of their economic society. And suddenly France and Belgium just go, well, look, you can't pay this ridiculous debt that we should never have given you off. We knew you were never going to be able to pay it, because who's going to be able to pay off, that much money in that quick a time? So now we're just going to take some more of your land, the land that we demilitarized from you. So now we can just take it without you doing anything about it.
It's purely coincidental, by the way, that we asked you to demilitarize it, and now we're taking it from you.
Not all of it, to be fair, but you get the point. The point being, France are exacerbating the problem. And it's at this point that I lose a lot of my sympathy for France and how they treated this situation, because it's like, man, what did you fucking think was going to happen when you're beating down this dog so dramatically? Like, of course they're going to resent you. Of course they're going to try and find a way to get out of this situation.
Beating down the eagle would probably be a more apt metaphor.
Yeah. So yeah, you can see why this growing resentment is so powerful. As the working class in Germany at this point cannot they cannot buy enough food to feed their family. And the middle class have these investments and pensions that they've been building, and it's just gone. This is basically in the space of 1 year in 1922 going into 1923, and it is it's not just that this is all happening. The economic position is so dire, but it's also France, which is a big rival of Germany and the nation they were fighting for so long, that's taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
So does this not breed?
You can't pay, we take your land.
Does this not breed the conditions for extremism?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
You want me to just justify the basis of the growth of Nazism as a Jewish man?
Yeah.
Do you realise the question you've asked me, right?
Well, no,
you've asked me essentially if I justify the extermination of my own people.
Extremism also means communist, and if I remember correctly, you said you'd vote for communism last episode.
No. So redact
because
that.
The communists
retract that.
The communists in Germany do play a big role in how the country is going to shape over the next 10 years, because they, like the Nazis, are really fighting to make Germany a communist state, because in their eyes, that's the answer to all these problems. So,
that'd be a nightmare.
By your logic, that would have been the perfect solution to this problem. And they are also an extremist group, and this is the problem. And it's when you look at the rise of fascism across Europe and many other places in the world today, it's easy to be like, stick your nose up at it. But you have to understand that the underlying conditions is only going to make this stuff happen. If people feel aggrieved, if people feel that they don't have a route out from the poverty that they're in or the situation they're in general, then of course they're going to look to more extreme examples. And it's extremely frustrating as two moderates in you and me to see this, because we know that a lot of the time these are not the answers that you are looking for. But in reality, when it happens, it's hard to be like, well, you guys shouldn't have done this. It's like, well, they didn't feel like they had a choice. They naturally went to an extremist view because to them there is no other option.
Nigel Farage's going to clip this and be like,
damn, these guys speak sense.
yeah. Listen to these guys. They got their heads screwed on.
Right. Okay, so far, all the steps are coming. They're going towards Hitler. This is great. He looks like he's going to get his opportunity.
This is great.
For him. However, he's about to make a huge blunder. What's the blunder?
The Munich beer putsch.
Yes, he blows his load early doors. He gets too excited.
Is that what you've written down?
Yes, exactly what I've written down. He gets too excited. He's loving the moment too much. He's getting a bit too much of that Messiah complex. He thinks he's the man. He's going to change everything. I mean, to be fair, this is, 3 years since he's joined the party. All he's heard, it's 1922, 1923 when all this bad stuff is happening. So it's that kind of period of 2 years. And from his perspective, he's been around in this party for a few years, and everyone's telling him, "Man, you know what you're doing, man.
Yeah.
You're such a good speaker.
That moustache looks fantastic on
that
you.
moustache looks extra cool. I think you're on something." So he's
your
naturally
weird sort of monologues about Jewish people. They're starting to hit home.
He's gaining an ego from this, and I think he gets he's not that old. He's in his early 30s at this point, and I think he's got a bit of a rush to the head. He's like, okay, let's really cook. He's inspired. He's inspired by his fascist hero, Benny Boy Mussolini. Benito Mussolini has succeeded in founding this fringe Italian political party, growing it into essentially a force that will eventually take over the Italian government. But it's a long time coming. He starts these ideas in 1914, around the time that the war's beginning, World War I. So he's ahead of Hitler in this like graph of getting to the top. Something that Hitler does and Mussolini both do is they both buy out a newspaper and use it for their own gain. So he actually remakes the party twice, Mussolini. The latest version, Il Partito Nazionale Fascista. Do you want to have a guess what that means?
The National Party of Fascism.
The National Fascist Party, okay. Absolutely. And they take over the Kingdom of Italy. And the way that they do that is the way Mussolini does it is he gets, I think it's 30,000 black shirts, all his like paramilitary groups, big supporters, and he marches on the capital, Rome. And the useless King Victor Emmanuel III.
Great name, by the way.
It is, but he's a fucking idiot. He just he could just stopped it right there, and he goes, "Oh man, maybe just let them in. It's fine." And then he eventually just makes him the Prime Minister of Italy. So, from Hitler's perspective, he's seen a very similar trajectory from an ex-army man. Mussolini also served in World War I. They both hate leftist ideas, and they both clearly understand the importance of the media and using modern media in their eyes, which isn't social media like it is for us, but instead newspapers and journals and magazines and propaganda. These are all relatively new concepts to be able to portray your propaganda message for the average person, the average citizen, and they're both utilising it in a way that all the other political parties, especially the fringe ones, are struggling to come to grips with. They do not realise this is how you get your message out at a big scale. So Hitler sees it and goes, shit, I want some of that.
No, I want to learn that, actually. It's basically like using TikTok today, right?
Yeah.
It's like Farage doing little 1 minute pieces of camera, like a little dance or something. Jason Derulo in the background. That's very boomer, say Jason Derulo.
But it is.
Olivia Rodrigo, maybe. Is that still boomer? Sabrina Carpenter? Is that less boomer?
Sure, I guess so. It is, but it is like using TikTok.
Chapel Roan.
It is like using TikTok. It is like using social media. It's kind of like how. No one expected unconventional methods like talking to right-wing podcasts like Joe Rogan would do anything for Donald Trump. But here we are. They're utilising methods of media that other people think is useless but actually has more of an undercurrent tone that people will listen to. It has always been a way of getting ahead of your adversaries, and the media is just the vessel that these right-wing groups and fascists have been able to use better than some others. But in the same way, the communists and the left-wing in the Soviet Union were able to do the same thing by pushing their own propaganda. Yeah. So Mussolini marches on Rome and he takes it. Tasty plan, correct? Hitler loves it. He's like, let's do it. Let's march on this Weimar Republic scum. Let's get rid of the government. So he goes to a Munich beer hall where some of the leaders of the leaders of Munich, like the local governors and stuff, are meeting for a meeting, and he takes it over. Apparently he's got a gun out. He's like this. Yeah, he's like this is where the revolution begins, and he like takes these leaders to a quiet room, and he tries to convince them, look, we are taking over this city and we are taking over this country, but for us to do that, you've got to get on board. So get on board. And he shoves a gun in their face. They kind of and ah, but no, we don't want to. And Hitler realizes, well, I can't kill them because that would like really fuck up my plans. So he waits, and he eventually convinces them. And then Hitler makes the mistake of just being really passive. He goes to another place to check on how they're doing, because all over the city you've got Himmler sorting out SA troops in different parts of the city.
So they're rising up.
They're rising up, but it's not like everyone's rising up. So they've got to be careful.
It's just the SA.
Just the SA and the supporters that they have. And so Hitler is trying to kind of corral everyone, and he goes from place to place, comes back to the beer hall, sits there for a while. Everyone's like stopped drinking by this point, so they're a bit like, meh, I don't have the same energy I did. Like they're literally there for several hours. Like this is going on for quite a while. And then eventually they go, right, enough time's passed, let's go into the centre of the town. They get there, yes, of Munich. By that point, the leaders of Munich that have been saying, all right, fine, we'll back you, they've now gone, because they were allowed to leave, and they've now gone, all right, sweet, let's get our troops ready and let's fight them back. So they get to this central Munich spot, and suddenly they're opened fire on. I believe
with guns.
Yep, the army fights. Well, yeah, because this is this is literally a rebellion. This is a coup for the city, which is trying to eventually coup for the entire place, for the entire country. Yeah. So this is a big deal, and so when they arrive, there is a fight, and there's not many deaths. I believe it's like 16 Nazis are dead, 4 police officers are dead on the other side. Goering is wounded.
No,
and apparently
Hitler, not Goering.
Apparently Hitler and Himmler run away very, very quickly. Like the second it starts fighting, he's like out of there, which is speaks to their character.
Not surprised Himmler runs away.
It's basically the entire thing is a huge mess. It's amateur hour. It's like the January 6th insurrection in America.
Steroids.
On steroids. Imagine if Hitler had Twitter. Right then he'd be going, my brown shirts, stand back, stand tall. We're proud of you. You've done so well, but let's all go home now. Let's all chill. Let's have a nice time. Let's forget about all this bloodshed.
Who would like the shaman guy be? The guy with the horns. And
that's Goering.
That's Goering.
He's right in there with the shirt off, having a few beers. So basically. This is bad. They have been completely cut in their tracks. Berlin has heard about this, by the way. In the time, all this slow time that's taken for them to get their forces and march on the centre of Munich, Berlin have heard. They've sent troops of their own, and they are treating this very seriously. In their eyes, this is high treason, which is, a
punishable by death.
Big crime. Exactly, punishable by death. So this is a big deal. From this position, it would take an incredible comeback to come back from this to become president. Oh, sorry, I mean chancellor. Sorry, sorry.
That was in your notes. That was in your notes.
Oh no, what have I done there? I meant Germany and chancellor. Crazy that someone could come back from this, right?
Are you trying to draw parallels between the rise of Hitler as the eventual leader of the German Reich and Donald Trump as the president of the USA?
With the January 6th insurrection? Yeah, they're super similar. This is essentially Hitler being rousing the crowd when they're not ready and going, look, this is our chance to take back our country. And they go, yeah, and they go out and they go there, and Hitler runs away straight away.
And now what are we gonna do?
Yeah, and then he's like, shit. Well, now I'm at the mercy of the judges. And similarly to what happens with Trump. The process does not work. Treason in Germany at this time, like you say, is the death penalty, or it often is. So in theory, this could be the end of Nazism forever. It could be the end of Hitler's life. For him, this is a very, very bad moment, and this could have been the end of all of it. He's getting ready to go to prison, but he has learnt a lot. He's learnt that violence is not necessarily the way to get to the very top. He's learnt that by convincing rather than combating, by trying to persuade, by trying to be nice, but use the undertones of what you're doing behind the scenes to really dismantle democracy.
Use political levers to get your way rather than overthrowing the government.
The Mussolini tactic doesn't work for everyone, and he's starting to learn that. And the most important thing for him is the fact that this is the first time in national newspapers that Hitler is now a name that's being discussed.
Oh,
this is the first time
any press is good
anywhere. Any press is good press. In Germany, for the first time, people are actually talking about. They know his name. They know what he's doing. He is now part of the national discussion, and it's there that we're going to end part 1 of this 2-parter.
Great place to stop. Hitler in chains in prison, but like, you know, still becoming more well known and pushing around his ideology. And you leave me there?
Yeah, we're stopping right now. And luckily for you, you get to listen to what happens next in a few minutes. But for the sad people at home, you're going to have to wait till next week. So I'm sorry about that, but this is a good place to stop. And next time we will be talking about how, from this ridiculous position, Hitler is able to regain his power and regain his influence and eventually become the most powerful man in Germany, and soon enough, almost the most powerful man in the world. So thank you very much for listening, and wait till next week and you'll be able to hear the part 2. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye-bye.